Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. Today's a very exciting one. We're going to go out in search of one of the major features that's been added in the Tricky Trials update in 1.21. We're going to go looking for a trial chamber. We're going to start over here with my cartographer villager who has not been traded with all that much, which is a good thing because if we trade up with a cartographer to a higher level of their profession, they're going to potentially sell us a map that will lead us to our first trial chamber. And I think this is a really good place for people to start if they have already explored their world a little bit, if they're trading with villagers, and want to get a nice easy heads up for exactly where their first trial chamber is going to be. I'm going to break down a little bit of glass into glass panes. That's a pretty solid trade for the cartographer to have. And there we go. A trial explorer map becomes available from this Journeyman Cartographer. Let's trade a few more emeralds so we've got enough to buy one of those. Oh, they need a compass, not an empty map. That's my bad. So this cartographer will sell us a trial explorer map. Fortunately for me, as I've walked away, they've increased the discount even more, so we can take a look at this for the first time, and of course, this is going to look like it's fairly far away. We're going to be heading northwest for this one. It's somewhere out in that direction and hopefully is not inside the area that we decided to preserve when we trimmed down the chunks of this world, because otherwise this trial chamber location might actually be a false positive because it would generate there if the world was a fresh one, and the villagers will know that, but they won't know that I've trimmed the chunks of the world and left this area preserved. Fortunately though, it does seem to be taking us a decent distance from my spawn point, and the chunks loading like this in the distance is a very good sign that we are loading new terrain again, so I think we're outside of the radius that I saved around my spawn area. In fact, we're headed downriver into the savanna biome over here, it looks like, and I'm fairly confident that a trial chamber will be underneath here, although if it's underneath this mountain, there might be a deep dark nearby. And we know of a few ways that we can get down into the ground around here. There are plenty of caves and gullies in this mountain, bit of an earthworks going on, so let's see if we can get a good... Oh gosh, this cave is full of mobs. The local caves actually seem to be relatively shallow around here, so let's try staircasing down to this one and see what happens. We've just started hitting deep slate, and the map seems to indicate that we should be right on top of this structure about now. So what I'm looking for is some new blocks that were added in this update. We are hoping to find tough bricks. Much like finding stone bricks to indicate the stronghold, tough bricks are a sign that you're digging down into a trial chamber. And in the subtitles there, I can see trial spawners crackling, so it seems like we are in the right place. I just have to find a way into the structure from here. And there we have it. The tough bricks are right here. Now, unfortunately, there isn't a really easy way of finding the exact entrance to a trial chamber, or if there is, I have not discovered it yet. There certainly doesn't seem to be an intended way to get in as part of the game. We are just going to bust through a wall, and we're going to find actually that there are a couple of other new blocks in here alongside the tough bricks. This is a copper bulb. We'll do an episode all about those in future. They're going to be one of my favorite new blocks. But in the meantime, we'll bust on in here and see where we're at. We get an advancement for getting in here, Minecraft Trials Edition, and from this point, we need to be on our toes, because trial chambers are really intended as an expansion to something like mob spawner dungeons in a huge way. These are combat challenges, and so I've come equipped with my best gear, and if you're starting a fresh world and looking for a trial chamber, you probably want to get geared up with at least diamond gear, if not fully enchanted diamond gear, before you take one of these on, at least if you want to survive and you don't want too much of a challenge. Now, obviously on the way down here, my inventory has got clogged up with a lot of different stuff, so we're going to throw a lot of that into a shulker box. We're going to throw in the blocks that we got from digging into the trial chamber as well, and then we're going to grab 2 more shulker boxes from my ender chest, and I'm going to use these for 2 very different types of loot. First of all, we dug directly through next to some decorated pots, or some pretty plain looking pots. Actually, there might be decorations on the other sides, but these are items that you can smash using tools to acquire useful items as you go through the area. So there's some iron ingots in here, there's some arrows, obviously a lot of bricks from the fact that we broke down the pot in the first place, and I'm going to put stuff like this into one of the shulker boxes so that we can see what kind of loot we acquired as we traveled through the trial chamber breaking the pots. We might also throw in some of the loot that you will find in barrels around here, although a lot of these are designed to help you navigate the dungeon. There is scaffolding to reach higher levels if you lack any ladders or blocks to pillar up with, and hanging signs can even be used to indicate which way something is inside the trial chamber, so that you can signpost to yourself maybe where you've been, or which entrance leads to a spawner that you want to find later. I might tuck all of that stuff into this shulker box as well. The other shulker box here is going to be reserved for different kinds of of loot, whether that's mob drops or rewards that we will get from completing trial spawners, and I'll be able to explore what that means in a second. But this crackling sound around the corner can only mean one thing: there is a trial spawner nearby, and it looks like this one is actually spawning slimes. Whoa, there we go. Got instantly attacked by one of them, and we're going to be claiming a few slime balls from this one, it looks like. So trial spawners are like regular monster spawners, but with a couple of major differences. First of all, light does not affect them in any way. They're affected exclusively by line of sight to the players, so as long as a player is nearby, they are going to be spawning mobs until eventually the player has killed enough of the mobs that they spawned, at which point the trial spawner will burn out and it will drop a couple of items. You can tell that a trial spawner is burnt out from the fact that it doesn't have any flames or anything indicating inside what type of mob it's going to spawn. There will be smoke particles arising from the top, and during the process of taking out these mobs, it will spit out an item like this, a trial key. Trial keys can be used to unlock vaults throughout the dungeon, and those are going to be our primary source of the more interesting loot that doesn't just come from mob drops or pots that we break along the way. And the trial spawner is now on cooldown for a pretty long period of time, allowing us to explore the dungeon without concerns that this one is going to light up again. You'll also notice that on the floor around the trial spawner are blocks that indicate the type of mob you can expect it to spawn, and directly above us right here you can see more moss blocks, which indicates that this trial spawner above us is probably going to generate some more slimes. Let's take a peek around the corners here as well. We'll probably find a couple of other spawners littered throughout the corridors, along with a couple of traps. You'll notice there's some tripwires here, either side of a dispenser that's going to fire some arrows at us if we run down this corridor, so I'm going to grab those just so we don't get shot along the way. We'll break a few more of these decorated pots, and I'm not going to highlight every time I do that in the video, but at the end of this we're going to take a look at the contents of our decorated pot shulker box, and we're going to see how much loot we have accumulated just from breaking these jars. Although I will highlight that the one I just broke has dropped a new pottery sherd. This is the Flow pottery sherd, only available in trial chambers. There is, I believe, one other pottery sherd that we can get from here, so we'll be on the lookout for that as well. And keep your eyes peeled as you break these pots, because that one contained a trial key. That's going to be really useful to have, and I'm going to leave this in the pot loot box for now, but obviously if we encounter some more vaults that need opening, we might dip back into that a little later. So from this room we actually have a couple of different directions we can travel, but no sooner do we get up the stairs than the spawner behind us kicks into life, having spotted that the player is in the vicinity and has started to spawn slimes. So I better find a way up there so I can take care of these slimes before they take care of themselves. Anyway, there are ladders in the corners here that'll get us up to the next floor. There's a few pots we can break, and another trial spawner is waiting for us. This one looks like it's spawning regular skeletons though, indicated by the bone blocks in the floor. So we'll let some of the skeletons shoot each other here and there, as they are prone to doing, but obviously my priority is going to be blocking with my shield and taking down the spawner until it can eject some loot for us, and that's another trial key in the bag. I'm also going to walk over and break this pot, because that contains another one of the exclusive pottery sherds you'll find in a trial chamber. There's another skeleton spawn around the corner, and they are mixing with the slimes over here. Obviously the skeletons are going to shoot some of their neighbors every so often, so maybe I'll concentrate on taking out the slimes first. A little bit of strategy required though, and it looks like this trial spawner, the one that we got the slime spawning from, has ejected a little bit of food for us, and that's a way that you can progress through these trial chambers if you come in without too much gear. If you're trying to locate one of these structures in the early game, then at least you can be reassured that some of the spawners will drop a little food for you. At the stage that we are at right now, though, it's not really going to be all that useful to us. That one dropped us a potion of swiftness. Alright, so I'll drop the baked potatoes and the potion of swiftness in there, and I might dig out another shulker box that we can store some of the mob drops in, because all of this slime is actually going to be fairly useful. On our way around the trial chamber, it might even be worth looking out for potential secrets, because if we dig through this wall here, you can see there's a cavity thanks to the new copper grate block that allows you to see through it. In here, we've actually found one of the vaults, one of the basically prize boxes that you can unlock once you have a trial key. The mouth of the vault will open like this to indicate that you haven't opened it yet and leaving room for the key. It's also showcasing a few of the items that you can hope to acquire by opening one of these vaults with a key, but we'll come back to this a little bit later. For now, I'm going to leap down into the water so that we can be relatively safe landing. We'll take out these last baby slimes that spawned from the trial spawner, and I'm going to try and run around until I can find the room that I'm fairly certain is intended to be the entrance chamber of these trial chambers. This place is pretty expansive, though. It's a large one, so I'm going to try my best to circle back and find where I think the entrance is, which might actually be over there. Yeah, I think this room might be it. The entrance chambers vary slightly now. They didn't vary as much in the snapshots, but a few things have changed. This is actually as much of an exploration video for me as it is a tutorial for you folks. But yeah, downstairs in this we have something that looks a little bit like a vault door. This is really intended to be the entrance chamber, but as you can see, there's not really a whole lot behind it. It looks like it goes out into an abandoned mine shaft, so maybe you'd find your way in through this room if you got lucky exploring that mine shaft. But as you come up here, there'll be a couple of early game loot chests, so we can take a quick look at this. That's got some arrows and a wooden axe in. You might be able to upgrade your tools as you go through here, picking up the iron from the decorated pots and everything. And it's got a tree here so you can grab some wood, which is going to be really handy if you don't have any on you. You can make chests with that, or barrels or whatever, to store some items in if your inventory starts to get clogged, or you can use the wood to create tools as you go. That's not the only thing in here, though, because if I dig up through this pillar to the next floor, you'll find there's also a vault on the second floor, on the sort of mezzanine of this area, and so we can potentially come back with a trial key later and open that up for some rewards. In fact, you know, we've got the keys, we might as well do that now, because the trial spawners are going to refresh, allowing us the opportunity to get more trial keys, but you can only open a vault once, so we might as well do this systematically, get that advancement under lock and key, and watch as the vault spits out a few different items. Some pretty useful ones if you're new to the dungeon, but it's only a power 1 bow and a handful of arrows, plus some arrows of poison, which might be useful dealing with some more difficult mobs. I'm going to leave these in here for now, but frankly, that's not the best loot to be starting out with. Let's step back down into the trial chamber and start taking it on room by room, though. This area in here looks like it's got a couple of murals almost to either side. There's a spiral there, and there's a few spiral patterns you'll find throughout the rest of the dungeon. This also looks a little bit like an angry breeze, which is a mob we'll expect to encounter a little bit later on. So we got some skeletons spawning from this trial spawner in the center here. We're going to take out as many of those as necessary to open up that trial spawner and collect the loot. And that's all done. That's going to pop out some more potatoes for us and close up again. Well, I'll break the pots around the outside here, hoping that we can maybe get hands on another trial key from those. And a barrel here is going to give us some tough blocks and a stone axe. I'll be popping all of those in the miscellaneous shulker box. We'll head up this ladder to the second floor and see if there are any more spawners we can activate and receive the rewards. Yep, this one looks like it's got a slime spawner. And you'll also notice that there are doors leading off into different areas of the trial chamber. So depending on which kind of generation you get, you might find that these things are pretty expansive once you enter them. And that's one of the reasons I recommend only looking for these trial chambers once you've got geared up a little bit, you've got some decent armor, a good weapon, and a decent supply of food. You will of course get a few pieces of food from the chamber itself, but that's not always going to be enough to save you. In fact, if you're the kind of player who brings a bed with you on long distance trips, it's probably a good idea to set your spawn somewhere inside the dungeon just in case you end up dying on the way. It'd be a real pain to come all the way back here to get your stuff. And bear in mind that a trial spawner will not be considered complete until you've killed all of the mobs that it generated. In the case of the slimes, you just have to take out the first type of slime that it spawns, and the baby slimes are not necessarily going to be a concern, but in this case, I've had to make sure I kill those last few skeletons before these trial spawners will pop open and eject their rewards. Or in this case, bread and potatoes. At least they're making sure I get a decent diet. I'm going to drop those in the trial rewards box, and we're going to open up this vault that was behind one of the spawners. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's actually something new for us. Oh, and some golden carrots. That's nice to top up my current supply. We have a new banner pattern. This is the Guster banner pattern. So there's a lot of exclusive loot you can find in these, including enchantments, banner patterns, armor trims, and the pottery sherds that we've already been gathering. There's a third level to this room. As we come up here, we can end up walking on this kind of catwalk made of copper grates, and from this point, we can see a couple of things. We can see that there are doorways leading off to either direction on multiple levels, so we're going to have to find a way of marking which ones of those we have been through. We can also, from a distance, see this. And while this looks a little bit like a vault block, it's a little different. It's decorated with some red glazed terracotta to either side. There are red candles, either side of it, and this will not open if we go near it with a trial key. Instead, an ominous key has to be acquired, and we'll talk about how we acquire those in the next episode, because we're going to be spending a couple of episodes here at this trial chamber figuring out all the mechanics. I'm actually now going to bust out a fourth shulker box, and this is going to be the mob drops one, since we're going to have a lot of those from exploring this trial chamber, and I might even consider a fifth one to get rid of all of the blocks as well. Inventory management is going to be a big deal in trial chambers because you end up acquiring a lot of items if you're going around breaking absolutely everything. So I'm actually going to dash back through here to the shulker box I left by the way I got in, and we're going to add all of the blocks into this box, which should hopefully give us a little bit more room to think. One useful tip as you're exploring these is that the copper bulbs actually oxidize and get dimmer as they go through the different levels of oxidation. This trial chamber will probably have generated with a few of them waxed, but in this case you might be able to simply tap on them with an axe, although it looks like you can't do that holding a shield in your hand anymore. So yeah, if we right click on this a couple of times, it's actually going to get us the advancement lighten up, and as you tap on it to scrape the oxidation off, it will also lighten up the area around you, making it a little easier to see where you've been. And while this won't affect mob spawns inside of the trial chamber, it will at least be a little bit easier for you to see what's going on. I think we're going to tackle the side rooms of this one from the top down, and I'm going to break the copper doors as I go through them, just to make sure that we know we've been through these areas. I do something similar whenever I visit a stronghold. I usually take out the iron doors to prove that I've already been through this area. Now there's a chest right here at the entrance to this one, and it looks like it doesn't have anything in. So this is apparently intentional on the part of the developers. King B-Dogs clarified on Twitter that these chests are really there for you to dump excess items in if you need to do a bit of inventory management. So while I've done that with the shulker boxes here, we can obviously leave some of the doors that we're collecting in these chests if we don't plan on using them. And as we step on through into this room, we'll notice a couple of things. First of all, there are two vaults right here in front of me, but on the next level up, that might be where we encounter our trial spawners. So I'm going to take down a few blocks of the pillars here, and we're actually going to use those to build a little staircase up, because we definitely want access to this next floor, and as you can see, it continues upwards in a kind of zigzag formation. There are some dispensers around here as well with fire charges and snowballs, so if those get activated by a stray arrow, we're potentially going to have other projectiles to deal with. And with a few of these skeletons in here dealt with, I'm hoping that this trial chamber pops out. Yes, another trial key. Perfect. So we can use that to activate one of the vaults down below. Let's see what this one's going to pop out for us. Some emeralds, some honey bottles, and oh, that looks like an extra shield. Yeah, kind of a half-broken shield, but that's good because my shield is half-broken, and we can combine those two to fully repair it again. Honey is good for curing poison, which is great in case the skeletons are shooting poisoned arrows. There are new variants of skeletons that will appear in these trial chambers, and we'll actually encounter more of those if we return to a swamp biome in the near future, because the bogged have been added to this update as a skeleton variant. There's another chest in this alcove. That's another empty one, so we could always drop off stuff like the half-broken bows that we don't really need. And it looks like there are two trial spawners on the next level as well, so that could get pretty hectic pretty quickly if they are both spawning skeletons. That's another trial key for us. I'm going to take that down to the other vault immediately, just so we can kind of work through this systematically. However, you'll notice that once you've acquired the loot from a vault, it will no longer open up whenever you go near it with a trial key, and while it's smoking from the top to indicate sort of like a trial spawner that it is burnt out, vaults can only be opened once per player. So this vault is effectively useless to us from this point onwards, which always seems like a bit of a shame when you're playing in single player, but this system actually allows for loot to be instanced per player when it comes to multiplayer servers. Let's see what this one's going to pop out for us. Oh, we got a diamond from that one and another bow. This is probably going to be a low-level enchant. Once again, yep, we get power 1, but that is our first diamond that we've gotten from this, which is always nice to see. And let's see what happens when we activate two of these things at once. Yep, the skeletons are going to go to war. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. Yeah, honestly, if you get the right angle on some of these skeletons and encourage them to fight each other, you can pretty much just sit back and let them do the work a lot of the time. But as before, remember that all of the skeletons will need to die in order for you to complete these two trial spawners and get the loot from inside. That's almost the case with this one, though. We should just need to take out one more skeleton each, judging by the rhythm that we found with the previous trial spawners. And yep, that one's dropped us a trial key. Perfect. That's going to go for the vault. And that one's dropped us some bread. All right, well, let's open this up and see what we get. some more arrows, some more emeralds, and that's it. Okay, a little disappointing loot-wise from that one, but I think the ominous vaults are really the ones that we want to be opening, and we'll tackle those once again in the next episode. We're going to move on from this room, leaving the door destroyed. Let's see if there are any other exits or entrances from this upper level. You'll usually find them ringed in copper blocks like this, so it's usually a good idea to look out for those. Unfortunately, this one looks like it's generated against a wall, and there really aren't any exits back here. It's not like a one block thin wall that's going to lead us through to another part of the trial chamber. Looks like we are all done there. But there is another door on the opposite side there, and I can't get to that from the walkway I was on previously, so we're going to have to hop down and find another way to get up here, probably by pillaring. That's where the scaffolding that you get in the barrels is going to come in handy as well. Let's break this door and see what's up the spiral staircase. Up another spiral staircase, we're in a little alcove area. There is another trial spawner here, and that one's just generating straight up zombies, it looks like, judging by the mossy cobblestone. Defeated that trial spawner, and it looks like we might actually have come up into a different room that we might access another way, because I'm not certain this is meant to lead into this room that way. It might be a fluke of generation that's led to that. But this room has a lot of different spawners in it, including over here, a breeze spawner. These are a brand new mob for this update. They kind of resemble the blaze in terms of both what they look like and what they drop. As we defeat this one, which is throwing us around, you'll see that they drop a breeze rod, and another trial key pops out of the trial spawner once we have defeated them. Looks like we're going to have a lot of zombies flooding in on us here, though, because a couple of spawners around the outside here have just flickered into life. The zombie horde is following me, and I imagine some of these will also be capable of generating reinforcements. Obviously, it makes sense to stay relatively near the trial spawner so that we know it's popped out some loot. As you can see over there, we don't want these trial keys to despawn because they're actually pretty valuable. That one seems to have popped out some roasted chicken, and there's a geode right here that seems to have generated into part of the trial chamber. That's kind of cool looking, but also potentially a little annoying if it's blocked off some of the structure. However, it has provided me with a staircase down to the basement floor of this area, where it looks like there are a couple of vaults, and once again, a couple of chests in which we can store any loose items. So let's open up this vault, see what we get, and oh, that's the prize we were hoping for, friends. Oh, and we got a little extra from this one as well. So let's take a look at what we've got here. That is a bolt armor trim pattern. That is one of the exclusive armor trims you can get from a trial chamber. A couple of wind charges, which you can actually also acquire from breaking down breeze rods, so it's a good thing that we have some of those already. We got some arrows of poison, but we also got an ominous bottle of Bad Omen 2. So this has changed up a mechanic that was present in previous versions of Minecraft. Bad Omen was the effect that you could usually get by killing a pillager captain, one of the banner-wearing ones that you would find on pillager patrols or outside of pillager outposts. Now, every time you kill one of those, you will receive an ominous bottle that can give you the Bad Omen effect if you drink it, instead of automatically receiving the Bad Omen effect, which makes a couple of major changes to the way pillager raids work. First of all, pillager raids are now going to be voluntary things. Oh, we got the new music disc as well. Incredible. All right, let's grab some of this stuff, and it looks like the rest of that is stuff we're already familiar with. But yes, pillager raids are going to be voluntary. No more accidentally acquiring Bad Omen and then walking into your buddy's base. You're going to be doing it very deliberately if that is the case. But these Bad Omen bottles also have an effect on trial chambers. If you drink one while you're in here, the trial spawners will actually change into ominous spawners, and that's how you get hold of the ominous trial keys. So we're going to be saving this Bad Omen bottle for the next episode, where we're going to be activating that and seeing how the ominous trials change up the experience of trial chambers. In the meantime, we're going to put the music disc and the armor trim here in our loot box. I'm also going to throw the wind charges in there, and we'll put the breeze rods in there, even though they count as mob drops, because I consider those pretty valuable loot from the trial chambers, and they also break down into the wind charges that we'll be acquiring that way anyway. Have we got anything else down here on this floor? It looks like a series of corridors more than anything, and yeah, there's a few places where we can actually jump up the copper grates here onto the next level, so a little parkour challenge that'll take you up to the area where the monsters will be spawning. And I'm still on the lookout for any areas like this where an ominous vault might appear behind one of these copper grate walls, a little bit hidden, but it's right there if you know where to look. Looks like the rest of this area doesn't have a whole lot left for us though, so I'm going to go back the way I came, but I will mark as much of this as I can with a couple of torches or whatever, just to ensure that it's obvious we have been here. As you can tell, we are just getting started exploring this structure, and I'm being very thorough for the purposes of this tutorial, but there are some areas in which it might just dead end, or you might find that there are a couple of chambers that look pretty similar to each other. But since these are procedurally generated structures, you might find that one trial chamber looks very different to the next, so you'll have some fun exploring the different variations on them and seeing what else you can dig up. We're finally done with the entrance corridor though, so let's move on to the next area, and this staircase actually leads up to a little mezzanine floor where if we open this door, you'll find a few beds that you can sleep in and a barrel that will contain a few more supplies. I think areas like this are really intended for multiplayer servers where players can set their spawn here and decide to go out and loot the dungeon. We've also got an ominous vault over there, so we'll make sure that we can grab that next episode. And once again, I'm using the torches on the left trick to make sure that we find the right way back if we're headed towards the entrance room, but we'll also need to remember where I came into this area, which I'm pretty sure was through an area on the right over here. And as you can see, the trial spawner down there has actually now refreshed, so it will be spawning slimes again if we run past it. That's really my fault. I've been kind of over thorough explaining each of these different aspects of the area, but we'll walk into this room and fight a few slimes since that seems to be what the room is spawning. We've got another empty chest there in case we need to drop off a bit more of our loot. And having cut all of these slimes down to size, that trial spawner has just popped out a piece of chicken for us. We'll break the pots in the corners just in case any of them have a trial key, because we are now at a deficit. We have this vault in the corner here, but I do not have a trial key to open it. So perhaps we can look down a level and see if there's another spawner down here. There's also another vault, it looks like, and this just dead ends. I don't think there's going to be another room through there, so nope, that looks like that's it. We have a couple of vaults that we cannot open because we need to go back and potentially fight some of these trial spawners again in order to generate another vault key. This trial chamber is actually getting us a ton of slimes, so this wouldn't be bad if we wanted to set up an early game slime farm. And oh wait, I just realized I did get a trial key from one of those pots, so let's come back over here and open the vault. I think we'll go for this one first. What's this one gonna get us? Probably nothing too exciting from the looks of things. Yep, a couple more wind charges. Oh, and another golden carrot. All right, that's all going in the loot box, where as you can see, we have about a half a stack of poisoned arrows now. We've got a decent amount of wind charges as well. I'll try and remember that we have a vault still to open in this room, but we can come back through here later. Instead, we'll move back onto the room that we first came through, and we'll go up the stairs, or up the ladders rather, to see if there are any upstairs rooms. Looks like we've at least got a couple of skeleton spawners we can do again, and that's popped out another vault key. Fantastic. Let's backtrack 1 second and open the other vault. At least once we've done this, we can declare this room finished and not have to worry about coming back in here. We got another armor trim from that one, and some bonus iron as well. Not too bad. That's 2 bolt armor trims to our name, and we'll throw the iron in there since it was a vault reward. The skeletons are using some pillar strats. It's a 2v1 right now, with the armored skeleton going up against both of the regular skeletons. Oh, the armored skeleton loses. Unbelievable. I'm mostly trying to stay out of the firing line so I don't run out of food during this. That's another trial key for us though, and I'm fairly certain there was a vault in this room that I hadn't quite unlocked yet. And a bonus one, just in case we find another vault. Where was that vault before? Was it behind one of these walls? Yes, this one. This is the one I haven't unlocked yet. Let's give this one a try. Spin the wheel, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. We got another ominous bottle from that. Another heartbroken shield and a few emeralds as well. That's not terrible. I think we'll probably repair the shield one more time. And let's see if we can use this trial key in another vault in the next area. Oh, this one just leads up to a supply chest, which has a decent bow if you're still in the early game. Doesn't look like we have any more doors on this level, but I wonder if we can get up to the next level and see if there are any more exits from this corridor level. Aha, yes, there's one up here. Let's break the copper door and see where the spiral staircase leads once again. This looks like another zigzag room, and we can pop in and claim the first vault right away with the key I already had. Once again, we have a chest right here in case we need to drop anything off, but I'm going to stash some of this stuff in here before we carry on up the structure and see what we can get from the skeletons at the top. Another key, that's good stuff. We'll get the other vault done. Oh, that one dropped off another music disc and some more wind charges. Okay, that's all unique loot. Very good stuff. Uh-oh, we got some lava coming into this one. Got to be a little bit more careful of that. Maybe I should drop a water bucket over here before more skeletons spawn and push me into this. I will say we actually got lucky with this trial chamber because the skeletons all seem to be basic ones. The bogged with their poison arrows are a lot more difficult to handle. That's another trial key. We'll quickly grab the vault at the top here while all the skeletons are fighting each other. copper, that's some more iron, some more wind charges, another shield. That was it looks like. Well, just by standing still there, I took a fair amount of damage. Blame the fact that I'm wearing elytra for that one. A little bit of roast chicken out of that one. Let's see if there's one more skeleton down here whom I haven't killed. Nope, it was just going to spawn one more. Okay, that should be the last one from that spawner as well, and thankfully we get another trial key. Great stuff. Yeah, judging by the amount of arrows sticking out of me, I should probably switch to my netherite chest plate. So let me dig that out of the ender chest. It's not like I'm doing any flying in here anyway. There we go. Some protection 4. I'll keep the elytra on me just in case, but that will be super handy to have. And let's see if I can remember which loot we got from the vaults and the trial spawners. I'm not looting any of the dispensers as I go, but those all have arrows and fire charges, occasional buckets of water in, so if you feel like that's worthwhile loot, feel free to raid those as well. But for now, we'll consider this room done, and we'll only need to return if we need to farm a few more trial keys from the trial spawners. In the meantime, it looks like that level is taken care of too, and we'll hop back into the water down here to continue our progress through this area. We've got one slime spawner down here that's word back into life. Obviously, a few of these spawners are refreshing because I'm taking my time going through here, but you might actually want to adopt more of a smash and grab approach to these. See if you can speed run your way through them and complete the entire dungeon before these trial spawners have a chance to refresh. One thing I will note is that around the back here in this little watery pool, we have a couple of useful secrets. Back down here, we have an ominous trial vault. And in this, we should have a diamond, an iron block, and a cake. And that's always in that chest. For whatever reason, the loot, I'm pretty sure, is identical each time. So we can eat a couple of slices of cake for a little bit of extra health and keep the iron block and the diamond. Both of which I will consider part of the loot from chests and barrels and pots and other things. So I'll pop both of those into this shulker box along with the other stuff. Now, progressing on into the next area, there's another chest at the entrance that you can use to store a few things, and it looks like this might be the last room in our trial chamber. There's another skeleton spawner here, but this room at least feels a little bit more complex. There's a different layout to it. We've got spawners on the top level here. That one we've taken care of. There are ways to get down here, there are magma blocks on the ground, and there's this central fountain that if you activate the dispenser, just produces a ton of water and flushes enemies out from around here. Oh, we got a breeze in here as well, and the breeze's projectile has just set off that dispenser, so I'm now having a hard time getting around here myself with all of this water. Defeating a couple of breezes, though, gets us another trial key, and we can take a quick look around for where those zombies are coming from. There's even a baby zombie over here, for which I'm actually kind of thankful that the water is present. And it looks like the zombie spawner is down here underneath the bridge. So that's going to activate in a second, and that's going to pop out another trial key for us. Excellent. Another chest in the corner is just going to be another empty one, and there should be at least one vault in this room. There's one up in that corner there, next to an ominous vault. So once again, we should look into those ominous trials a little bit later. Looks like we've got a second vault over there as well. So I'm going to deactivate this fountain in the center. We'll keep the bucket of water and make sure that this isn't going to distract us anymore. And then we can use that to ascend to the next level, like so. We'll pop a trial key into this vault and see what we get. Some iron and a bow. There's only 2 items from that one. Huh, interesting. And let's see if we can get over to the other side of this. Unlock this vault with one of our remaining 2 trial keys. That nets us another armor trim. Oh, and some armor maybe to put it on. Let's see what we've got. Protection 1. Okay, nothing too exciting, but certainly worth your time if you are fresh into these things with very little gear. And I don't know if it's still the case, but around the corner here, yep, looks like we do have another vault right here. So that's all of our trial keys used up once again. We'll get a couple of the usual rewards from this. Some iron and some emeralds is not terrible, but still also not great. And it looks like that might have been the final room for us to explore here in this trial chamber. These rooms can have multiple entrances and exits, though. They're designed to be kind of modular and connect to each other, especially where they've got these chests. There's always a chance that there might be a corridor over here, but it looks like that one has not generated. And that's not an accident, that's not an error in generation, that's just how these things go, because sometimes you'll find these things connected in all sorts of different ways and different directions. But no, I don't see any more entrances and exits from the lower level here, so I think we've actually explored the entire trial chamber. Well, let's go back to the area where we came in. Let's go back to this little spot behind here. We actually found a really great place to come in where we didn't activate the spawners right away. And let's take a look at all of the loot that we've acquired as a result of raiding this chamber. I'm going to ignore this shulker box with all of the blocks, although you might want to come here for copper blocks, copper bulbs, some of the new copper grates, and the doors and trap doors that have been added, along with some tough bricks as well. You could tear down this entire structure and you'd probably have more copper than you would get from going mining or farming copper from the drowned for quite a while at least. And the tough bricks are really interesting building blocks too. We'll look at those in a future episode. For now, let's turn our attention to the loot we've acquired as we raided the trial chamber. First of all, we have a decent amount of mob drops. I've been collecting arrows and shoving those in here as I go. We also get those from the trial spawners. Occasionally you'll get them from vaults as well, and that's really designed to top up your ammunition if you're coming in here as a fresh player with no built-up supply of gear. We got a ton of slime from this, actually, from taking on those slime spawners a couple of times. We have enough to build like half a stack of slime blocks. That could really be a boon in the early game before you set up a proper slime farm anywhere, or if you haven't located a swamp yet. If you found a trial chamber, chances are with a few slime spawners, you could get a pretty healthy slime farm going. Because the majority of the enemies in here have been skeletons, we also have a few stacks of bones. That's tons of bone meal to set up an early farm, possibly with the carrot that the zombie dropped. We got a few arrows, a few loose bows, and some rotten flesh from the zombies in the dungeon as well. On the other side of here, we have the loot that we got from the pots, chests, barrels, that kind of thing. I'm not certain that I broke 100% of them. There might be a couple that I missed in a room here or there, but we have two new pottery sherds, the Flow and Guster, both of which seems to represent the breeze and the element of wind. Tons of bricks from the other faces of the decorated pots that were not decorated. We got a couple of stone tools and scaffolding and bamboo blocks and signs, along with some tough blocks from some of the barrels that are around here that were really designed to give you tools that you can use to navigate the trial chamber however you want to. And then finally, on the more precious side over here, we got the block of iron and the diamond from that chest behind the watery staircase. We also have a bunch of emeralds that we got from those pots. Naturally, a lot of those chests and pots will have arrows in so that you can keep your ammunition topped up. Kind of ironic, really, considering the breeze is like the iconic mob of the trial chambers, and we can't use arrows against them. Projectiles don't really work. They bounce off the force field of wind that it has. The last thing we want to check out is the loot that we got from the vaults and trial spawners, and I'll try and separate this out into a few different categories here. So I think this is more or less what we're looking at here. The top row is just like food and tools that will help you get through the trial chamber. We've also got some poison arrows, which lends a little bit of a useful status effect here and there if you want to equip those. And we got shields and armor and stuff like that, even a potion of swiftness, which you could drink as you travel through the trial chamber, and that might help you get out of some sticky situations here and there. On the opposite side, we have the precious materials, some of which can be acquired elsewhere. You've got some diamond, emerald, and iron from those vaults. And of course, the breeze rod, which is a mob drop, but we're counting it here because of the wind charges that it can break down into. If I craft this in my crafting interface, one of those breaks down into 4 wind charges, and we'll look at what they do a little bit later, but we want to keep some breeze rods around because they're also a crafting ingredient once we're able to acquire the new weapon that was added in this update, the mace. But those are going to be unique to these dungeons. For now, you cannot find breeze rods or wind charges anywhere else in the game. They are exclusively dropped by vaults and by the breeze. So we're going to keep hold of those and make sure that we know where the breeze spawners are in this trial chamber, because we will be revisiting those in future to acquire a lot more of them. In the center here, I've got what I'm considering the collectibles from these vaults, the things that are not immediately useful to the player, but things which are obviously going to provide cosmetic rewards and little collectible items. We have 2 copies of the Precipice music disc. There are 2 other music discs that we could find in these trial chambers, but I think they are acquired through ominous vaults as opposed to the regular kind of vaults, so we'll look out for those in a future episode. We've also got the Guster banner pattern and the Bolt armor trim, which we have 3 copies of from unlocking vaults in this trial chamber, and the ominous vaults will give us a chance at another armor trim and I believe another banner pattern as well. Finally, the key to getting hold of those ominous vaults, we have ominous bottles, which will give us the Bad Omen 2 status effect, and there are multiple levels of Bad Omen 1 through 5, which were previously acquired by killing up to 5 pillager captains to acquire different levels of Bad Omen. Now they're going to be dropped randomly from vaults and ominous vaults, and they're going to give you different levels between 1 and 5. You'll also get different levels from the pillager captains, I believe, as well. So in the next episode, we are going to be sticking around in this vault, drinking one of those ominous bottles and seeing what happens and what loot we can acquire from the ominous vaults in here. But for now, I think that's been quite enough action for one day. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.